Somewhere in the middle of the ocean right now, there is a steel wall moving at the speed of a highway car. It is longer than the Empire State Building is tall. It is wider than a 10-lane freeway, and stacked on top of it, painted in reds and blues and rust streak greens, are around 24,000 metal boxes. Inside those boxes is almost everything. The shoes on your feet, the phone in your hand, the coffee in your cup, the couch you're sitting on, the parts inside the machine that made the thing next to you. The whole load weighs more than 200,000 tons. That is roughly the weight of a small city's worth of stuff floating across the deepest water on Earth. And here is the part that should stop you. Steering all of it, keeping it alive, feeding it, fixing it? There are only about 20 people on board. How is that even possible? How do you move that much, that far, with that few, and maybe the stranger question, who is making money off it, and how does the math actually work? Let's take a look. Start with the box itself, because the box is the whole secret. Before the 1950s, moving cargo across an ocean was slow, brutal, hands-on work. Everything came loose. Sacks of coffee, barrels, crates, bundles of rope. Men called longshoremen would carry it piece by piece up and down the gangway of a ship. Loading a single vessel could take a week, sometimes longer. And a huge share of the cost of any product, up to a quarter of it, was just the price of getting it on and off the boat. Then, an American trucking man named Malcolm McLean had a boring, world-changing idea. What if you didn't unpack the truck at all? What if you just took the whole metal box off the truck's trailer and lifted it sealed straight onto the ship? That's it. That's the entire revolution. A standard box, always the same shape. Stackable, lockable, liftable by crane, droppable onto a train or a truck without ever opening the doors. The world settled on a size and gave it a strange little name, the TEU. It stands for 20-foot equivalent unit. Picture a box 20 feet long, about the length of a large pickup truck bed and then some. That is 1 TEU. The bigger boxes you see on the road, the 40-footers, count as 2. So when we say a ship carries 24,000 containers, we mean 24,000 TEU. And that number is the key to the whole story. Because once cargo lived inside identical boxes, one question took over the entire industry. If every box is the same, and loading is just a crane picking up a box, then why not build a bigger ship and carry more boxes at once? So they did. And they did it again. And again. The ship in our opening image is real. It's called the MSC Irina. When it entered service in 2023, it became the largest container ship in the world. And the numbers are hard to hold in your head, so let's anchor each one to something your body understands. It is 399.9 meters long. That is just shy of 400 meters, call it 4 soccer fields laid end to end. If you stood the Irina up on its stern, it would be taller than almost every building in the world. It is 61.3 meters wide. That's wider than the wingspan of the largest passenger jet ever built. And it can carry 24,346 TEU, 24,346 boxes. Try to actually picture that. If you took every container off this one ship and lined them up end to end, the line would stretch for well over 90 miles. That's the distance of a long highway drive, a wall of steel boxes running from one city to the next. Stacked flat on the deck, the boxes climb 6, 7, 8, sometimes 9 layers into the air, like a floating apartment block. Below the deck, hidden inside the hull, they go deeper still, 10, 11, 12 layers down into the dark. The ship was built in China at a shipyard on the Yangtze River. It sails under the flag of Liberia, a tiny West African nation that, for reasons we'll get to, ends up on the back of a staggering number of the world's ships. And crewing this floating city block, around 20 to 25 people, that's it. Which brings us back to the question that doesn't want to go away. How do 20 people run something this big? The answer is that the ship, in a sense, runs itself, and the humans mostly watch. Deep in the belly of the Irina is a single engine, not a car engine, a machine 2 or 3 stories tall, the height of a house, burning fuel to turn one enormous propeller. At full load cruising across the ocean, that engine burns through roughly 250 tons of fuel every single day. Let that sink in. Not 250 gallons, 250 tons. Enough fuel to fill several backyard swimming pools gone every 24 hours. You'd think that makes these ships wildly wasteful. It's actually the opposite, and this is one of the most counterintuitive facts in the whole story. Because the ship is carrying so much at once, the fuel cost spread across each individual box is tiny. Moving one container full of televisions from China to Europe, a journey of thousands of miles, several weeks at sea, can cost less than a single plane ticket for one person to make the same trip. This is the quiet miracle underneath modern life. It is cheaper per item to sail a pair of sneakers halfway around the planet than it is to drive them the last few miles to your door. The ocean leg is almost free. The expensive part is the truck at the end. That's why your phone can be designed in California, its chips made in Taiwan, assembled in Vietnam, and still land on your porch for a price you'll actually pay. The whole global machine only works because the box made the ocean cheap. Up on the bridge, the crew steer with computers, radar, and satellite positioning. The engine is monitored by sensors. Alarms flag a problem before a human would ever notice it. A few engineers keep the machinery healthy. A few officers keep the ship on course. Cooks feed everyone, and that's the whole town. For weeks at a time, this is their entire world. A steel island, hundreds of miles from any land, with the nearest hospital a helicopter ride away that may not be able to reach them at all. So we've answered the how. The box made it standard, scale made it cheap, automation made it thin on people, but we haven't touched the real mystery yet, the money. Here is a number to sit with. Somewhere between 80 and 90% of everything traded in the world by weight travels by sea. The vast, boring, invisible majority of global trade is boxes on water. You almost never see it, and it moves nearly everything you own. So who owns these ships? And where does the money actually come from? The first surprise is that the giant on the side of the box is often not the company that built the ship or even runs it. Container shipping is dominated by a handful of enormous firms with names most people have never heard said out loud. MSC, Maersk, CMA CGM. Between them, a few companies control a staggering share of the world's container traffic. And a single one of these ships is not cheap. To build a brand new vessel the size of the Irina today costs somewhere around $270 million. One ship. The price of a skyscraper floating. Now at first glance, the business sounds simple. You own a ship. Companies pay you to carry their boxes. You charge a fee per box, the freight rate, and you pocket the difference between that and your costs. But the freight rate is where this story turns strange. Because that number does not sit still. It swings more violently than almost any price in the world economy, and that swing is the real drama of shipping. To see it, you have to go back to the pandemic, and this is where the mystery gets genuinely wild. For years, moving a big container across the ocean cost maybe a couple of $1,000s. Steady, boring. A slim profit for the shipping lines, if any profit at all. For much of the 2010s, many of them were quietly losing money, drowning in too many ships and not enough cargo. Then the world locked down. Suddenly, everyone was stuck at home, and everyone bought things. Desks, bikes, webcams, home gym equipment. A tidal wave of orders hit the ports all at once, and the ports couldn't cope. Ships piled up outside harbors, dozens of them floating in long lines, waiting days or weeks just to unload. Boxes got stuck in the wrong countries, the whole smooth machine seized up. And when there aren't enough ships to go around, the price to book one explodes. The freight rate didn't just rise, it went vertical. At the peak, the cost to ship one large container from Asia jumped from around $2,000 to well over $10,000, 5 times higher, for the exact same steel box on the exact same ocean. The shipping companies who had spent a decade barely surviving suddenly could not count the money fast enough. How much money? In a single year, 2022, Maersk, just one of these firms, reported a profit of nearly $31 billion in 1 year from one company, moving boxes. To put that in scale, that's more than the entire annual economic output of some countries. And here's the twist that makes shipping. It didn't last. Because the same force that sent prices to the sky sends them crashing back down. When the freight rate hit $10,000 a box, every shipping company on Earth saw the same thing you'd see: easy money. So they all ordered new ships, dozens of them. Giants like the Irina laid down in shipyards across Asia. But a ship takes years to build. By the time all those new giants finally slid into the water, the pandemic buying spree was over. People stopped buying desks. The ports unclogged. Demand came back to normal. And now, the ocean had too many ships again. The freight rate didn't just fall. It collapsed nearly back to where it started. A 4-fold drop in profits in a single year. The $30 billion years evaporated. Some routes went back to barely breaking even. This is the real secret of the shipping business, the thing hidden behind all that steel. It is not a steady, boring industry at all. It is one of the most brutal booms and busts in the world. When cargo is scarce, the ships print money. When ships are plentiful, they bleed it. And because ships take years to build, but bookings can vanish in weeks, the industry is almost always overcorrecting, building too many giants at the exact moment it needs fewer, or running short at the exact moment the world is desperate. The boxes are identical. The ocean is free. But the money underneath is a roller coaster with no seatbelt. There's one more thing worth knowing before we sail back to where we started. Because carrying a city's worth of stuff on one hull isn't just an economic gamble. It's a physical one. Those 24,000 boxes are stacked 9 high in the open air on a ship that pitches and rolls through Pacific storms. They're locked together with steel rods and twist locks, but the sea does not care about your engineering. Every year, containers fall off ships. Not many. Relatively, the 10-year average is a bit over 1,000 boxes lost annually. And against the roughly 250 million container journeys made each year, that's a vanishingly small fraction. Statistically, almost nothing. But almost nothing still means 1,000 steel boxes a year tumbling into the ocean, sometimes floating just beneath the surface, sometimes spilling their contents across the water. Everything from rubber ducks to sneakers to hazardous chemicals. Whole cargoes swallowed in a single bad night. And when one of these giants fails in a worse way, when a ship this size gets stuck sideways in a narrow canal, as one famously did, it doesn't just delay a few boxes. It can freeze a chunk of global trade, holding up billions of dollars of goods a day, because so much of the world now depends on so few of these enormous hulls. That's the hidden risk of making everything bigger. The bigger the ship, the more the whole planet is riding on each one not failing. So let's go back to that steel wall in the middle of the ocean. 24,000 boxes. A city's worth of stuff. 20 people awake in the dark, watching the sensors, listening to the engine, thousands of miles from home. When you started this video, it looked like a simple question. How does one ship carry that much? And the answer turned out to be layered like the boxes themselves. A plain metal box that made cargo standard. A relentless race to build bigger, which made each item cheaper to move than the last mile of your own street. A skeleton crew because the machine mostly runs itself. And underneath all of it, a wild, swinging river of money, billions made in a good year, billions lost in a bad one, all riding on prices that can change faster than a ship can be built. Next time you unbox something that crossed an ocean to reach you, take a second. It almost certainly rode inside one of these boxes, on a hull the length of 4 soccer fields, past storms and pirates and empty horizons, moved by a business most people never think about even once. The whole modern world is quietly floating on it.